Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, if you wouldn't mind sharing and subscribing, that would be great. Today we are going to be continuing Proverbs. We'll be in chapter 2 if you want to know about the introduction I did or Proverbs 1. I'll put a little bubble up there. So this one is very short, it's only 22 verses, and it's about the value of wisdom. Now, Solomon has taken God's law and made it his own by faith and obedience. The wisdom of these words is available to those who, first of all, understand the rich value, or treasure as he puts it, that wisdom possesses. Appropriating wisdom begins when one values it above all else. And of course we know that wisdom starts at the fear of the Lord. So at chapter 1 verse 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So with all that being said, let's get straight into it. My son, if you receive my words and treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding, yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly. He guards the path of justice and preserves the way of his saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice, equity, and every good path. When wisdom enters your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, discretion will preserve you. Understanding will keep you, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things, from those who leave the path of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil, and delight in the perversity of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and who are devious in their paths, to deliver you from the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house leads down to death, and her paths to death. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the paths of life. So you may walk in the way of goodness, and keep to the paths of righteousness. For the upright will dwell in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the earth, and the unfaithful will be uprooted from it. That is all of chapter 2. Again, really short, I think we're at like a 4-minute mark right now. The one thing that I wanted to point out is verse 18. For her house leads down to death, and her paths to the dead. The destructive nature of this blinding sin leads one to walk alongside death. You can see that in verse 8. He guards the path. You can see that in verse 9, 12, and 15. Death in Proverbs is presented as both a gradual descent and a sudden end. So in chapter 5 you'll see the gradual descent. Chapter 5 verse 23. He shall die for lack of instruction, and in greatness of his folly he shall go astray. So that would be the descent, and you can see a sudden end in chapter 29, verse 1. Let me just flip to it. Bible pages are so thin, well, let me tell you. 29 verse 1. He who is often rebuked and hardens his neck will suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. So it's kind of saying the same thing in a different way. More sudden, more abrupt, more angry, more fearful. So let's look at 19. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the path of life. There is an irreversible nature of continuing in this sin, points to its devastating consequences. It leads to physical death, as expressed in Hebrews, a few means cut off or uprooted. In verse 22, as you can see, after that comes the retaliability of eternal death. So yeah, that is chapter 2. This one is pretty straightforward. It's certainly more straightforward than some of the chapters we'll get into. It's also very short. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and God bless you sincerely.